this very exciting session, who is a multi-award-winning broadcast journalist with the Zimbabwe biggest amalgamated media house. She speaks to the heartbeat of the nation on the fastest growing metro radio station, Capital 100.4 FM, between 9 to 12 every day. A 9 to 12 magazine show that speaks to you. And indeed, today, I'm privileged to introduce to you Folak, who is going to moderate this particular session. And without much ado, I hand over this particular session to her. Over to you, Folak.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Doc Mtetwa was also trying to say for like wadini she papaita occupational hazard suro Liverpool yakadliwa ndikashaya kuti ndodini ndakauya ndina manyawe kuno ndifunga mvakandiona zuro ndakapfeka shirt yangu yekuratidza kuti hakuna zvatinoitwa neMan United ndakapinda machira nadzo shangu zuro saka Doc wanga ane basa nhasi rekundimutsa kuti zvonaichana chadhaki wadini zve. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you this morning. I welcome you to yet another edition of riveting discussions that are important to us as policymakers, decision makers, workers, and the business community. As Doc has already highlighted, we're going to be having a discussion that is a sub-theme looking at social security, occupational safety, and health within artisanal mining. Now, when we talk about the future of work in Zimbabwe, we cannot separate the soil beneath our feet from the hands that are digging, washing, and separating the minerals that are sustaining our economy and also fueling many global industries. Artisanal and small-scale mining, in short ASM, employs between 14 to 19 million people across the world. And in Zimbabwe, it is sustaining the livelihoods of over 1.5 million. That means the majority of workers who are extracting minerals like gold in our country, that's driving 60% of our foreign exchange earnings and 12% of our GDP, are doing so without safety nets, social protection, or access to health and safety systems. This discussion that we're having throughout our conference on occupational safety and health, OSH in short, and social security in artisanal mining is not just about regulations. It's about people, it's about children, it's about policy, it's about progress. It also sits at the intersection of our Vision 2030, which I'm sure, as you know, aims to transform our lives to upper middle income economy with inclusive growth. It also calls to mind Agenda 2063, which is our blueprint as a continent towards prosperity, equitable and sustainable living for us, the Africa we want. As you know, Vision 20 is targeting for us to build a $12 billion mining industry by 2030. And this cannot be achieved by the very same miners who sustain these goals, who are working under unsafe, informal, and in some cases, exploitative conditions. As we are also reflecting on our national journey this year as a country, we celebrated 45 years of independence. We were dancing and ululating to the theme around developing and evolving towards Vision 2030. And so these conversations, when we look again to a global scale, are also echoing another important theme, our Africa theme for 2030. Can I guesstimate and just ask if anyone can put their hand up and tell us what Africa theme is for 2030? Ideally, people say Africa Day theme, but it's supposed to be for the next 12 months. Anyone know what that theme is? Viva Africa. So our Africa Day theme is speaking to justice for Africa and people of African descent through reparations. It speaks about justice in the context where we're acknowledging many historical exploitation that happened during colonial legacy that also include extractive labor that made sure that today's mine. So in looking at this theme, it is looking at us redressing the legacy of our miners. You know, when you think of musicians like Yuma Sekela, did many songs on the story and the lives of miners who would travel from Zimbabwe to Johannesburg. I'm sure you might think of a couple of songs by Yuma Sekela. Now, when we look at this theme, it's about reimagining development through empowerment. It's about bringing justice. It's about ensuring that our miners today in Zimbabwe, across the continent, are no longer casualties of poverty. They are no longer casualties of neglect and unsafe systems. It's about reimagining development, as I've said, through empowerment, bringing governance, resources, decision-making closer to the people whose sweat is empowering our economy. We might also have observed the new Occupational Safety and Health Bill for this year, a milestone I think you would all agree because we are here today. It's supposed to be replacing outdated frameworks, looking at the Factories Act and establishing a new Zimbabwe using our Occupational Safety and Health Advisory Council. We also saw it's creating mechanisms for workplace registration, accident reporting, and compensation while seeing our country aligning with international OSH conventions. The bill also introduced preventative strategies and an appeal system to make sure that justice and protection is guaranteed for our workers. Its purpose, simple and yet very profound. We want to make our workplaces safer, dignified, and just. But as you may know, in the different industries that we're in, sometimes legislation alone is not enough to solve what happens deep in the mine shafts. Mazowe, Shurugwi, Mukaradzi, Jumbo, our artisanal hotspots. Here, we hear our miners are facing collapsing tunnels, unventilated pits, stagnant water that is breeding disease, and exposure to toxic chemicals like mercury. Tons of mercury are still released into our environment every year by artisanal miners across the world. In Zimbabwe, you might imagine that mercury remains the tool of survival. It's cheap, easy to carry, and fast. But it's also a silent poison that's seeping into the water that you and I drink, into our food chains. Or some children are already experiencing neurological damage and developmental delays because of this mercury exposure. ILO at the moment is estimating that close to 3 million workers are dying each year because of occupational accidents and disease. The risk is 90 times higher than a worker in the industry or industrial miner. So behind every statistic, I want you to remember this. There is a family, there is a woman, a mother who is widowed, there is a child who is losing a parent or both, and a community that becomes destabilized. The invisible cost of this unsafe work is human suffering, and yet this is largely preventable. Monitor our air quality, alert miners to hazards, create databases for risk assessment, and inquire reporting. I'd like you for a second to picture a Zimbabwe where mobile-based systems are recording real-time safety data, where miners are receiving digital alerts before flood or shower, for example, simplifying compliance for our small-scale miners through, say, digital tax systems. Encourage participation rather than punish. But we must also recognize that technology in itself cannot replace human systems of knowledge. Indigenous mining, traditional protection can also help in strengthen modern OSH practices. Coming to the end. If we merge our indigenous knowledge with digital innovation, this might give us a more Afrocentric model that aligns with the spirit of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, AU's call for us to revisit our history and shape our future. Social security is also another cornerstone of our vision. Now, the questions we want to ask and answer this morning: how do we extend protection to our artisanal miners who their family has recourse, not just sympathy? We also want to understand if we're extending social protection, things like compensation, insurance schemes into the panel, there is also another important leg I want us to touch on. Gender equality must also be central to this conversation we're about to have. Women are making up between 5 to 40% of artisanal small-scale miners across the world. And often, you may find that they're relegated to washing, panning, or vending roles. And in most cases, they are facing harassment and exclusion from decision-making. We also hear, if we are to align with our SDG 5 on gender equality, SDG 8 on decent work, our policies therefore must actively protect women and eliminate child traps that are estimated, listen to this, to 1 million children globally that are mining in the most hazardous forms. 1 million children. So, as we're about to have our discussion, as I'm about to introduce our panel, how do we make, these are the questions I would like you to remember. How do we make technology and social protection part of every miner's toolkit? Marching on towards Vision 2030, Agenda 2063, that no miner, no community, and no child is left behind. So, our task this morning with the panel that's coming is to connect these dots: the law, the pit, the data, as well as the dignity, between the policy as well as the protection. To help us unbundle all these things that I've just highlighted, we have voices coming from labor, the government, business community, and the miners themselves. So I'm hoping this is going to be a full circle of stakeholders that are shaping the Zimbabwe we want. So please do help me welcome the following who are going to be part of our panel and driving the discussion. And yes, you are also an important part of the discussion. We will certainly love to hear your response and your feedback as the panel will be discussing. Please do help me welcome our first panelist in no particular order, Comrade Kenya Shamyarira. He is the Secretary General for ZFTU and he's the co-principal alternate. He's also representing organized labor. He is, okay, you're coming through. As he's coming, please give him a round of applause. Shamyarira represents the heartbeat of the worker. He is the one, almost as if he's entered the shaft himself, speaks on behalf of the worker. Thank you so much, Vashamyarira, for being here. Please also help me welcome Mr. Stanley Chikwati. He is MCO's technical representative. He also sits on ZOSHC Council. He's also a councillor. He also is coming from the side of the enterprise and industry, where we are seeing productivity coming in, joining with protection. Next, he who is coming from policy to practice, government that's holding the power to formalize, to regulate, to protect. He's also going to help us understand the state of policy, especially with the forthcoming OSH bill that we spoke about, and how this can also translate into reality. Please help me welcome Mr. Clemens Busani. He's the Director of Labor Administration, Minister of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare. Now, we're also going to have the voice of the miner also himself. He is the one that's leading the very crucial movements around our mining story. He is really sitting daily with our national strategy and also the survival of artisanal miners, where informal hopefully becomes formal. Please help me welcome Mr. Wellington Takavarasha. He is the CEO of Zimbabwe Miners Federation. Also joining our panel, please help me welcome the man who's going to help us understand this question. How can our social safety nets reach the unregistered? Teams Development, Mr. Shepard Mperi. Please give him a round of applause. We also have an ILO representative, the global standard bearer. We hope that they will bring into the discussion perspective around international conventions, around decent work principles, and also how miners, artisanal miners in particular, come into this discussion. Mr. Adolf Chinomwe, he is the ILO Program Officer for Harare. He's joining us virtually. Mr. Chinomwe, we are greeting you with much excitement from here. Can you hear us? Okay. Presumably he can hear us. All right. Without further ado, I would like to invite he who is representing the voice of the workers or miners to start off with our discussion. Vatakavarasha. First question, please highlight for us what the most pressing OSH challenges you find miners to be facing every day from Mercury.
Thank you very much. As you heard that from Zimbabwe Mining Development, whose birth was marked to represent and contribute to the development growth and HS, occupational safety and health issues going of the workers in the country. But is that what is happening with the small-scale miners? So what are the challenges that we are having as the artisanal small-scale mining sector? It's actually poor working conditions, confined spaces with inadequate ventilation leading to respiratory diseases like silicosis, injuries and fatalities, collapse of grounds, flooding, accidental detonation of explosives, and inundation, occupational diseases like pneumoconiosis, tuberculosis, and other work-related illnesses. And also, lastly, environmental concerns, the degradation of the landscapes and water pollution from hazardous chemicals like cyanide and mercury. So these are the main issues that we'd like to be talking about. So in relation to the act that I've just said, which is actually closely monitored by NASA, our miners actually compliant to this. This is a key legislative issue, also coupled with interwoven with the National Employment Council of the mining industry, where there is a baseline of the salaries and wages that the small-scale miners are actually supposed to be benefiting during or at their workplaces. So these are the challenges that may not be happening. Why is something that we'd like to be highlighting as of today. Thank you in regards to answering that question.
Thank you. Whilst we are there, Vatakarasha, can you also help us understand, is there a difference between an artisanal miner, small-scale miner, Nemkorokoz?
There is an artisanal miner. An artisanal miner means somebody who is using rudimentary methods of mining. An artisanal miner, please take note, is not Mkorokoza. Mkorokoza is an illegal miner. Simple and straightforward. An illegal miner is not an artisanal miner. So like she is on her introductory remarks, people that are registered in Zimbabwe in terms of the Mines and Minerals Regulation Act, we have plus 50,000. Now when they are saying registered, this is on records at the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development across the 8 mining provinces, and then about 1.2 to 1.5 million that are unregistered. So the majority of the people are in the informal sector, which would call the illegal miners. Out of the 50,000, 25,000 are those that are fully compliant to all legislative issues and partly NASA issues. Now, when I'm saying partly, maybe a third, that can be said to be compliant with NASA issues. These are issues that we are trying to, what are the challenges that are bedeviling the situation in the country? There is a Chamber of Mines, representing the conglomerates, the Zimplats, Unki, Mimosa, and then Zimbabwe Miners Federation representing all the indigenous miners. But now when we're talking about the indigenous miners, we might have Class A miners that are able to get plus 40 kgs a month that we have. But if you go to his mine, you see makomba, unstructured mining and unsafe mining, where people will go and blasting, drilling without OHS PPE. So the challenges that we have mainly is to do with formalization. There are about 80 hotspots in the country. When I'm talking about 80 hotspots, she has talked about Jumbo. When you go to Jumbo, plus or minus 10,000 people are there in the informal sector, which are trying to put in the mainstream economy. Jumbo, Etna, Makaha, Kitsiatota, Vova, Wandara, all those places you find plus 10,000 people around those areas. And mostly the situation that is there is pathetic. It's not something that you can laugh about in terms of one, OHS, and two, dangerous chemicals like mercury. Zimbabwe signed the Minamata Convention, and we are part of the team that is steering committee to actually assist in the elimination of mercury, because mercury is actually a dangerous toxic substance. People may not understand that. You see pregnant women being affected, minors themselves, slowly mental illness. You go to the mills, you see there's heaps of ores. Some people have forgotten that has got ore because of mercury. So in 5 years' time, 5 to 10 years' time, all the companies that are manufacturing mercury actually globally will be stopped. So we are in the process of doing that.
Okay.
But what we definitely need to do is the government will to formalize. When we are saying formalize, how do we put the 1.2 million into the system? Yes, the government has said close one eye and bring gold to Fidelity. That's why you notice that records at Fidelity, they're outweighing the big mining operations, which is at 60% plus 60, 25 the potential to get plus 60 or 100 tons from the artisanal small-scale miners.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me just hold you there. So in line with our theme around technology.
The issue of technology is actually very, very key, where the small-scale mining has been lagging behind from the government. The government has talked about funding. When I'm saying funding, the budget, from the budget itself, budgetary small-scale miners. We have also what we call the Mining Industry Loan Fund, administered by the Minister of Mines and Mining Development through the Chief Government Mining Engineers Department, and also Gold Development Initiative, which is administered by Fidelity. But all these are benefiting those that have got collateral. So the issue of technology, which is very, very key in terms of sustainable mining, becomes a key challenge because the miners themselves do not have that. So the moment you are going underground, under pit, 100 meters, 120 meters, the miners can go 120 meters using a winch and look at how dangerous that situation is. Haulaging the ores outside. So it actually limits the production. Instead of getting, if you have got machinery, a compressor and accessories and other implements, you can be able to get big mines like how mine, they pull out 1,500 tons a day of ore. And the small scale miner gets 3 tons per week. You see the difference is because they are not mechanized. They're using the rudimentary methods of mining. So the issue of technology is very, very key in terms of time management, in terms of production, in terms of target, etc.
And so, Imimi Sebato, how are you educating miners? You spoke there of using mercury-free alternatives and other innovations that are out there. How are you making sure that your artisanal miners are aware of this technology?
What we have done is we've partnered with institutions that are actually into education and training. For instance, we've partnered with the Zimbabwe School of Mines. We've partnered with Institute of Mining Research and also SEDEC, where we have people go for trainings, do a School of Mines, the basic fundamentals of mining. They are taught how to blast. They are taught a number of issues which are actually to do with health and safety issues, and also in terms of technology and sustainable mining. So through the Ministry of Mines, and also I'm not forgetting civic society organizations, we've got Impact, which is currently being funded by United Nations, UNEP, which is in Zimbabwe. It's a project that has just recently started and launched in some 2 months ago. And also some non-governmental organizations, civic society organizations like ZELO, Zimbabwe Environment Law Lawyers Organization, which has gone out, it's an outreach programs and taught miners on the dangers of mercury. So if you notice, while we're doing researches on the miners' awareness to find out if they are aware that mercury is dangerous, the researches that have been done so far has shown that only 20% are aware that mercury is very, very dangerous. So the Ministry of Mines and also this new recently launched UNEP program through Impact Planet Gold is trying to make the miners aware. You can use other methods, alternatives that are...
Yeah. And how ready are our miners for this new technology? Because earlier we spoke about the convenience of mercury. Now, if we're to replace that with newer technology, how ready do you think our miners are for the uptake of newer ways of doing things, which may not necessarily be as convenient as, say, mercury?
The readiness is where the challenge is, the biggest challenge, which I was talking about, the formalization aspect. Now, when I'm talking about the formalization, as you move around to these mining sites, as government teams, the people run away. They totally run away, and because it is still criminal in Zimbabwe to be found in possession of gold without the papers, 5 years. So for them to be told that, no, this is an education and an awareness, they don't want to take chances. But anyway, the readiness is in the government will and also organizations that are doing funding, which I've said has come through UNEP, where there's funding that is going to do already. Areas have been identified, about 10 areas that have been identified across the country, where miners are going to be shown the alternatives. So they are going to be shown, and then they'll then start appreciating that mercury is dangerous, and also looking at the other new methods which we are going to unveil to the miners in due course as soon as researches and also Institute of Mining Research, Zimbabwe School of Mines and Ministry of Mines are fully conclusive to say these are the new methods that the miners can use.
All right. Thank you so much. Please give him a round of applause. Any questions you may have, please take a note of them. Now, let's come to Mr. Mperi. NASA's mandate, Mr. Mperi, is the protection and compensation of workers. In this context, how can social security be extended to workers who are informal, who are self-employed? In this context, we're talking about artisanal miners, of course. Are there any new models that NASA has come up with to make sure that artisanal miners are also likely to enjoy compensation as well as protection?
Thank you very much for the question, Folak. Good morning, esteemed delegates. Maybe before I answer the question on how NASA can extend coverage to the informal sector, or to that sector, the artisanal and small-scale mining sector, I would want us to appreciate the need for paying attention to this sector as a country. Its value as we march towards Vision 2030. What does it contribute? You mentioned, Folak, as you gave the introductory information on this topic, that this sector is actually accounting for over 1.5 million dependence. But I've got a bit of statistics so that probably we appreciate it as a very vital source of livelihood in Zimbabwe. This sector, according to the Chamber of Mines information that we got, is that it accounts for over 500,000 operators. Of course, my colleague from the mines body said only 50,000 are registered. And I want to highlight that it also accounts for over 2 million dependents, according to the report from the mines Chamber of Mines. And as has already been mentioned by my colleague, my co-panelists here from the Chamber of Mines, these people, the majority of them operate outside formal regulation. Now, coming to Social Security, first of all, I want us to appreciate that Social Security itself is a human right. This, in terms of the Universal Human Rights of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, as well as the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, among other international instruments, it's actually a human right which everybody is entitled to. So the thing is, we need to appreciate the high risks that people in the artisanal and small scale mining operations are exposed to when it comes to Social Security. There are a number of life cycle risks that people should be covered against for income security that are provided for in terms of ILO Convention 102 of 1952. So the challenge here is that almost all of these people in this sector are not covered by Social Security, which means to say, in the event of death of this miner who is bringing food to the table and bringing income to the family, dying, I was going to give you some statistics, if time permitting,
Sure.
Some statistics on what has been reported by the Chamber of Mines in terms of accidents. Maybe if you allow, I will allude to that quickly. In 2020, they said approximately 148 mining fatalities were recorded, and mostly resulting from collapsing shafts and unsafe mining practices, which is what we are trying to discuss here. So this sector needs rescue. And of those accidents, 48% of the fatalities were attributed to small and unregistered operations. And going to 2021, 121 fatal accidents were recorded, and 42% of them were attributed to small scale and artisanal mining operations. And this figure actually rose exponentially in 2022 to 179 fatal accidents compared to the 121 in 2021. And 37% of them were attributed to artisanal mining, with 47% to illegal mining operations. And in 2023, the figure is going up. In 2023, this figure rose to 236 fatalities recorded, representing 32% rise in fatal accidents. And the majority of them were said to be attributed to artisanal and small-scale mining. You mentioned earlier on, Folaki, that behind every accident there is a family. And behind these facilities, there is a family. What that means is that this family is actually trapped into poverty, because the person who was bringing food to the table has disappeared, has been involved in a fatal accident. What does that do to us as we try to become an upper middle income society by 2030? It means this will perpetuate intergenerational poverty. But these children will not go to school. Suddenly the family is food insecure. Even covering medical costs becomes a challenge, and we know of many diseases. These are the risks that the family will be exposed to. And that calls for the need to extend Social Security coverage. Now coming to your question, Folaki. So what NASA is doing or has done, we have seen that this sector, including the other informal sector, cannot quite fit into the existing schemes that we have for the formal sector, where we need employer-employee relationship. So NASA has embarked on a journey of developing a scheme for workers in the informal economy, which includes the artisanal and small-scale mining. We have done quite some work. I will not give the full information of what we have done, but where we are now, after we have, and working with the ILO and other international agencies like the World Bank, we have done some studies, some surveys nationally with the Zimstat. We have done some benchmarking, and we are at a stage where we are working with the ILO to now design and cost the scheme. So the core is to say, with the social insurance, you pay very little, but the cover is huge, which becomes the social protection and the income security that we want to achieve, because it's about risk pooling. So my call to the artisanal and small-scale mining operations is to say, when this scheme is launched, they really need to take it seriously and join. But the payment or the contribution they will make cannot be matched with the benefit that they will get in terms of social security cover. We actually expect to pilot this scheme for them and other informal sector operators in the first quarter of 2026. So right now, this is what NASA is doing, but also from a social responsibility, as corporate social responsibility perspective, our occupational safety and health division has been assisting them with training and awareness on safe working methods. But this on a CSR basis, because they are not covered by the scheme. But we have done that as we try to assist the nation in making sure that everybody is taken on board and we leave no one and no place behind. Thank you.
Please give him a round of applause for what NASA is doing in terms of creative thinking around solutions to protect our community. I also wanted to check with you, Mr. Mperi. In communities, say in Mazoe, in Jumbo, kana kuzasi kwenyika chaiko, would community-based schemes not also be useful for unregistered miners, where communities themselves are coming together and they're locally managing resources towards this protection?
Thank you. It's a good question for luck. If you look at countries like Rwanda, they've attained over 90% cover on health care through mainly community-based schemes. So these work, but they will need to be coordinated at the national level by, say, the Minister of Public Safety, Labor and Social Welfare, which is our ministry responsible for social protection. Because apparently what they will lack is the appropriate structures to really do that. But they can enforce it better if they are operating it from the community. You know, these people, the thing is about compliance. If it is driven by their leaders in the community, which has got the chiefs and the subs, these are people who are respected. Their word goes when they have said something. So if it is driven from there, there is likely to be higher compliance. But they will need to be coordinated and assisted in developing structures by institutions like the National Social Security Authority, as well as the Minister of Public Safety and Social Welfare. So we can really think around that and encourage community-based schemes that will eventually be incorporated into the bigger schemes if they are successful.
Let's talk about technology as well. In what ways are you leveraging technology so that we are extending coverage and also tracking the benefits for our artisanal miners?
Thank you very much. So the researches that we have done has shown us that we really need to leverage on digital systems and technology. These people, they don't have time. They don't want to be traveling to offices. If you want them to comply, you have to make the systems very simple and accessible. So we are trying to really make sure that we use technology and digital systems as much as is possible. In terms of registrations, it has to be through their mobile phones, including Kambuzi or whatever. That should happen, giving them information about occupational safety and health, giving them information about the benefits that the scheme will provide when we have implemented it. It's about us being able to give them timely information real-time, on a real-time basis. So this is what we are trying to drive, to make it very simple and accessible, particularly on registration, contributions, awareness, as well as information about their benefits. So we are seriously or strongly taking technology very seriously as an enabler if we are to take them on board and participate in these schemes.
All right, so timely information, platforms that give timely information, simple digital systems for our artisanal miners to follow, and you also spoke about the artisanal scheme that NASA has come up with. All right. Last question to you before we move on to Comrade Shamyarira. When we are looking at partnerships, Vamperi, what partnerships do you think would be good for miners or even miners associations with government would help improve social protection, would you say?
Thank you very much. For starters, I would encourage them to have partnerships among themselves. Yeah, operating as in partnerships will help them to have bigger capital that will help them to see investment in technology and other digital systems something that is achievable than if they are doing it as individuals. I think they also say it's better to own the leg of an elephant than to own a full rat alone. So if they come together, they become bigger and they are able to invest in these digital systems. But now talking about partnering with the institutions, but including the ministry, particularly that for labor and social protection, this will help them to make sure that they are assisted on improving on decent work. Because the other key issue, as has been highlighted by my colleague from the mines, is that there are serious decent work deficits. So if they work in partnership with the ministry, they are assisted on decent work practices that will actually improve their work, the environment of their workspace. If they partner with us like NASA, you will find that we've got a lot of information on safe working methods for free. It's not something that they will pay for, but we are able to now give them the information if we are partners, particularly working through their associations, because their associations, they have structures and they subscribe to the rules and regulations of the associations. So we can partner and we will be there to then assist them in making their working environment safe. That will really assist. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Comrade Shamyarira, let's come to you as somebody who represents workers' rights, collective bargaining, so on and so forth. Now, generally it is assumed, or there's an impression that when we look at artisanal miners, they are an invisible part of our economy, and yet we've highlighted just how much they are contributing to our nation's growth. How do you think we can begin to give them protection, dignity, visibility within Social Security? And where would we begin enforcement of whatever it is that we say we're going to do for our artisanal miners?
Thank you very much. A very good morning to all delegates. And I will precisely mention the presence of Comrade Mbauya, Ms. Mkweva, MCOS, Mrs. Alexander, and Chikosi, representing organized labor, and the NASA board, the PEMSEC, not in his capacity as PEMSEC, but also as the chairperson of ZOSC. Colleagues, I think I would first by thanking NASA on bringing this timeless workshop, which is dealing with a pertinent, sorry state in the world of work. And I think first thing first, we need to discuss real stuff issues here, because we are on our own and we are our own liberators. NASA, you need to constantly continue to transform from time to time. Because from the time you were promulgated, things were fairly equitable in the world of work, because we were dealing with formalized industrial structures. That's why we had the Chamber of Mines under the MCOS. We have all the workers under ZCTU, ZFTU, and ZCOPST. That was formalized, and that's why even the representative of the Miners Federation, Vatakavarasha, mentioned about national employment councils. that is very regularized, and that is the way to go in modern day times. What am I saying? Now, we are having sporadic mining activities that are happening in the body of work within our landscape. And that sporadic mining activities is not premised on good standard best practice work ethics. It is done premised on power dynamics, which are infused heavily in political dimensions. What is the key result to that? We will continue to have disconnect and mismatch. As a result, our country is milled. There is now a spree of looting from our very own resources. That does not even benefit the national fiscus, that does not even benefit our working people, neither our industrial sectors. Right now, we have the Miners Federation represented by Mr. Takavarasha. First thing first, that federation must be automatically be a member of MCOS. Because we now have a structured, regularized national discussion pillar, which is TNF. That is where we meet government, business, organized labor. Even those politicians that are giving us headaches, that are giving us nothing, that are giving the president a torrid of time. Because when we discussed these issues, I am sorry, I will continue to explain the way I feel you must understand. Those who get bored, you get out of the room. I don't care. Right. So I am saying, when we have problems, moderator, I think, are you protecting me? Thank you. Yes. Thank you. So I am saying, Vatakavarasha, to be honest, your representation is only, from the records that you are giving us, is only 20%, leaving 80%. Vavusani, Director of Labor here. If we were to be very clear to each other, we need to have the statistics of all the players that are doing small-scale mining in the board area of our country. Who are they? Are they regularized? If not, what is the problem? And they must be enforced to be regularized. Once they are regularized, they are tapped into your federation. Your federation is tapped into MCOS. All the workers, they are tapped into ZCTU, ZFTU. We have got National Employment Council. We have got the TNF. NASA is a tripartite alliance. Even our inspectors, it becomes very easy for them to go. I tell you right now, if we are to send NASA inspectors to go at Oterekwa or to go to Mukaradz, if they miss bullets, I don't know where you'll find them. These are real issues that you see in social medias. You'll find army, you'll find politicians. So this mismatch will never get us to a fair, sound occupational health and safety in the world of artisanal miners and even those that are coming in as investors. Secondly, Mbauya, we need to be very thorough and robust and radical. We can't allow this government to have an investor who flew all the way from Asia or from Canada. Canada, yes, you are just caught in between, but from Asia, right, to come and mine 3, 5, 10 hectares. This must be left for our very own indigenous people. A miner should come and resuscitate mass. Makes our life very difficult, degradation environmentally.
All right, so Commissioner Miyadela,
Yes.
I want us to move together.
Yeah.
So let's go back to our question.
Yeah.
We are hearing the passion and it is important. So how do we give them this dignity and the visibility and the protection that you feel they need through NASA, through Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare, for example?
Thank you. We will need to have a comprehensive risk assessment audit. NASA, organized business, organized labor, and government. We must go. With the police, with even the politicians, if they want, they can come. They are also born of women like us. We go with them. You can't have a situation whereby we have a landscape that is unpenetrable by NASA, by government, by NEC, by us. What is that? That's skewed. That's an insult to our ancestry.
All right. Yeah. So from where you are sitting, are there any frameworks that you say, Folake, NASA, these frameworks are existing that are under OSH or Ministry of Labor to protect our miners from where you are sitting right now as the voice of miners?
Yes. The first thing is that NASA, together with the employers, you need to visit each and every provincial office, take stock of all the registered or unregistered miners that are doing activities in our landscape, and they must be put on fold. Those that think they are protected by politicians, give them to us. Give them to us, organized labor. We will deal with them menacingly. They are regularized, and then they are put to toes, and then we formulate a framework.
All right, thank you. All right. Tiri Papo, unions or even worker associations, how are you supporting better social security for artisanal miners? How are you promoting dignity for our miners?
First thing first, these workers, they must be paid a living wage. It can't be a willy-nilly from the employers or from the miners. They must understand that there are regulatory frameworks that governs the salary payments from the NECs. Those that are not yet members of the NEC, they must follow the regulatory NEC salary scales. That's the first thing. Second thing, there are principal industrial regulations that governs the mining sector. Each and every dot must be followed to the letter. Be it maternity, be it working hours, be it whatever, it must be followed to the dot.
So how will you use technology to monitor that these things are being followed? I'm trying to imagine a miner in Kwabuka, how are you going to use technology to monitor what you're describing as solutions for those miners that may not necessarily be within your everyday reach?
Thank you. You see, poor as we are and developing as we are, the good thing about technology, these cell phones, they are a very good technological aspect. This is why I am able now to give even graphic example. That's why you see I'm not scared of telling the real story. Even politicians that are amazing, I can name you by your name, because I will be having data clear with Iwo and Walker and so on, pakati. We get them from our members through our cell phones. They must tell us this is what is happening, and then we work hand in glove with the Ministry of Labor. We go for thorough, conclusive inspections.
And lastly, before we move on to Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare, how can government, how can the workers, how can Social Security work together so that we are improving the welfare of our miners?
Yeah, I think Ministry of Labor has done a good thing so far by having the regulated TNF, National Employment Councils, those forums. They are there and they are inspect labor officers, and I think they must be equipped. They must be computerized with every minute database that is required within provinces and districts.
Yeah. You actually brought in a question I want to throw at you, sorry, before we move on. You spoke about provinces and districts, which to some extent speaks to devolution towards developing, right?
Yes.
In your assessment, how would you evaluate local authorities right now as far as supporting formalization of artisanal miners?
Yeah. First thing first, let's remove politics. Let's remove that idea of looting, that idea of mpingarism. Let's have pure business worth ethics. Be you an indigenous artisanal miner, you must know where you belong. You must know what is required by law, provided by the Constitution, by the Labor Relations Act. We have got acts in our country. You can't have your mine claims and rely on police officers and soldiers and politicians. It doesn't work like that. And these are the things that we are doing willy-nilly because we are not able to censor rudimentally to those things. Let's just go head on.
Thank you. He's so passionate about Digitira. This is what I was like yesterday, watching Liverpool being beat by Man United. Let's move to the voice of the employer that's represented by Mr. Stanley Chikwati. Mr. Chikwati, you've been listening in to NASA, to From a business point of view, how do you think business associations can come together to promote formalization of artisanal miners, to encourage OSH for our artisanal miners?
Thank you, Folake. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observed. As a representative of ENCOS, which stands for the Employers Confederation of Zimbabwe, we value OSH, Occupational Safety and Health, and we are encouraging our membership to follow laid down procedures that are clearly laid out in the legislation, and in doing several things. We look at risk assessment. I'm happy that in the morning session, there was a lot about risk assessment, which was talked about, and I don't think we need to repeat that, but all suffice to mention that there's need to conduct regular assessment to identify hazards and implement controls. We also look at training and capacity building from an employer perspective. We encourage our members and miners in particular to provide the miners with adequate training on safety procedures and emergency response. And then we also look at the issue of PPEs, personal protective equipment. Again, it's something that has been said before. Again, we ensure that we encourage our members to ensure that there's access to PPEs for the workforce, so that such as helmets, for example, we can talk of gloves, respirators. And then there's also, because we are talking of miners here that go underground, ventilation and air quality is important. And we ensure that there is ventilation in mines so that we prevent respiratory diseases. I think there was talk of silicosis and other TB and other related diseases. So we should have that. We also, as employers, want to urge our membership to have emergency preparedness, which is develop and regularly practice emergency response plans. We also look at health surveillance and look at such things like providing regular health checks for miners, detect early signs of diseases, occupational diseases, and above all, we urge our members to be compliant. I think the moment we become compliant with the legislation, I think more than 3/4 of the job is done, because there are instruments that are there that can protect the workers. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you tell us, when we tap back into our indigenous knowledge, is there any traditional mining knowledge and perhaps community-led practices that we can adopt and implement in a modern OSH environment?
Thank you, Folake. I think like any other industry, we need to move with the times. There are rudimentary ways of doing things. That should be a thing of the past. With the technology that we now have, and also the technology generally, artificial intelligence should be coming in to help us. We must have modern equipment. I think this idea of just having shovels and picks, I think it must come to a certain point where we say we need to invest in technology, we need to invest in production, generally with putting capital. But that needs for us to be also organized. And I think this is where the issue of formality came in, to say, are we formalized? Because if we are formalized, it means we also get support. It can be support from government, and it can be support from other financiers, because we now have the technology and we are business-like.
Let me use a different example. Forgive me, this example only works if I explain it nechikaranga. Into zotu kaita chirungurira, unotsenga tsangamidzi, kana kumwa chimfanjimuka, munochizaire chimfanjimuka. Kana pane chimwe chachabva chatiza chinovava so chinoiswa mvura chiya womwiswa musi unoenda kumushanda akadzidziswa zvekunanzva dota. Those are examples of indigenous knowledge systems, regardless of how old they are, how basic they are, but they are systems that we as Africans relate to, and they work for us. Do we have similar examples of indigenous knowledge systems in mining that we can bring into so-called modern science? Zumbani is something also that we all drank during COVID. I don't know a single person who did not drink Zumbani. And only now tests have been done to prove that actually Zumbani has higher antioxidants than rooibos tea. But without us having taken Zumbani to the lab, we knew from our indigenous knowledge system what it does. So bringing the same question to mining, do we not have any traditional knowledge, wisdom that we can then bring into modern science that already is working in remote areas?
Thank you, Folake. I think we can't discard our traditional methods entirely and systems completely. I think we should be able to build from there. We have several of those. And by the way, remember, the custodians of our traditions are the chiefs. So I heard someone talking about how we can collaborate with chiefs, for example. Those are the custodians, and those are the people that know exactly some of these practices. Some of them are just going under, but you need to resuscitate them. I think we can build from there. I may not have specific examples, but I think working closely with traditional leaders, and even those that are practicing mining, that have practiced mining for a long time, there are certain beliefs, there are certain systems that go with a particular profession, and I think mining cannot be an exception. So traditional and our traditional African religion and all that should be able to add up, but add technology to it, I think we can move forward.
It will be interesting to see, you mentioned traditional leaders there, how that community participation can then be involved in OSH, because what we're talking about is safety, isn't it, of our miners. It would be interesting to see how bringing that conversation to them. NASA, I'm also throwing this at you, to put them at the center of OSH if they are participant in the process. All right. All right. Also, please do allow me to recognize very special individuals that are amongst us. Please help me receive and welcome the chairman of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, Honorable Malinganiso. Honorable, we welcome you with so much excitement. If you can just wave to us, to Kufare. We also have member of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, Honorable Bajila. Good morning. Good afternoon, actually. Thank you so much for joining us. So please take a note of all the questions, suggestions you may have. We will be passing the mic around. Another quick way is to send your thoughts, your questions to, if you can quickly take this number up, and if you can, IT, please put this number up for us so that people can take it down. It might also make it quicker. 07104666652. If you have any questions, additions, as we will be passing the mic around. Okay, let's talk about private investment, and I think Comrade Shamiarira also kind of hinted towards this. What is the sort of role we should see private players, private investment players playing as far as improving mine safety is concerned?
Thank you for the question, Folake. When you look at mining, mining is a capital-intense business. So we need private capital. And I think when we do that, when they then partner our local people, we can have those partnerships working. So we need capital for us to be successful in our businesses in mining. Mm-hmm. So that's what I can say on that. I think it's important. Let's have those partnerships, smart partnerships that really work, that benefit the indigenous people, but also benefit the people that are investing.
Yeah. Takarasha also spoke about, alternative uses to things like mercury. How do you think we can get our artisanal miners to balance productivity, efficiency, but also sustainable ways of us being able to mine?
Yeah, when you are doing, just like any other business, you need something that is sustainable going forward as a business. You need to invest in recent technology, in technology. Yes, we talk of mercury, but I think the reason why people use technology, mercury is it's easier. It has been traditional. It has appealed all this time. But I think there should be more sophisticated and a different way of doing business, which is more efficient. I'm sure if we research, this is why it's necessary to involve even the academia in research, so that there are also some sustainable way of doing business, which is different. I think we need to utilize all that.
And do you also have incentives or models that you have to encourage our
when we say that the small-scale miners, the issue that is coming out from the discussions is that we have more informality than formal. Mm-hmm. And we must be able to encourage formality. And I think this is where perhaps also government comes in. Let's come up with incentives to encourage these people to formalize. Perhaps some tax breaks or incentives of sorts, so that it's easier to go in and out of business. I think if we do that, we will end up having people that are not seen as enemies of progress, but people that want to do business, but is in a manner that is sustainable and easy for them to do.
All right. Please give a round of applause to our workers' voice coming from Mr. Chikwati. Let's move on to government. That is represented by Director Clements Vusani. But Vusani, firstly, you have heard the thoughts, the comments that have come in from NASA, that have come in from our worker representative. Now we've heard the employer coming in. Before we ask you questions, what is your response over to what you've heard so far?
I think, first of all, I would like to mention that I completely agree with all they've said. They've said very many good things, very progressive things, and I think those things will take us forward.
Okay.
All that they've said. Yeah.
All right. Now, Vavusani, looking at all the different stakeholders that are seated up here, how do you think you can collaborate with each one of them to improve OSH and the dignity of our artisanal miners?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. There's one thing I would like to mention before we talk about any collaborations. Artisanal miners, there is a great perception that artisanal miners are not only illegal, but informal. Ladies and gentlemen, as long as they are registered, as long as there's a registration process for artisanal miners within the Ministry of Mines, they are a registered entity. Please take note, artisanal miners are not only registered, but they are formal. Most of those who are unregistered, who come out of the registration process, they exist without the protection of the law. Let it be understood and accepted that artisanal miners are indeed formal. Having said that, most of us, well, some of us who are sitting here are the artisanal miners. You just have your uncles, your cousins who are doing the mining for you. And when we go out there to make our inspections, we discovered that your cousins claim that they are the owners of the mines. But we know you. We know who are the owners of the mines. They are recorded and they are known. Mr. Shamyarira has explained that, and I will not explain it any further. This industry is not only highly, badly technologically supported, it's a very rich industry with no support. The artisanal miners make money for the government using their own resources, and they don't have much support. That's the first thing I would want to call upon us all to be able to support through government efforts and the private sector, their efforts to mine. This industry has affected the most of the environment that they are operating in, leaving a lot of damage that maybe for many decades will be very difficult to repair. Your research, Falaki, has already said that the research that you did is excellent. It shows how much damage has been done. But the most important thing I wanted to mention, besides the fact that this industry is highly politicized in our country, is the fact that it's also highly conflictual. Currently, you will notice that those who claim to be artisanal miners, they want to call themselves businessmen, as indeed they are business people and employers. If they are business people and employers and they've joined Takavarashas Association, surely, as Shamyarira says, they must join MCOS. We ought to encourage them to do so, maybe without forcing them. Secondly, we must appreciate that as an employer, you employ people. And these people that you employ, we know how much you do not pay them. But we know how much money you collect from Fidelity as soon as you bring the gold to Fidelity. The system is now aware of what is going on. Then there are those few that we read about every day who are injured, who are stuck in the belly of the earth because they cannot get themselves out because either it has rained or the mine has just collapsed. Those are the people that need the utmost protection. Technology will help us. But those who are bringing technology, this is the fourth challenge. Those who bring technology are also competing against artisanal miners. I'll mention our good friends from Asia. We will not say that all those who are coming from that part of the world are bad investors. Some of them are very bad. Some of them are very good. We want them to assist our local farmers. Just like we expected the farmers that we removed from the land to assist local farmers, we expect those who at least have the money, the technology to assist the miners, to also assist our indigenous miners. They have been neglected for too long. As a result, a lot of death, and one death is one death too many. We do not need that. I'm glad a week or so ago, the ambassador is Mr. Zhou from China. the Chinese embassy in Zimbabwe, he issued a statement encouraging local Chinese investors to comply with labor rules. When we've allowed employers to register as employers, as indeed they are, we must also allow Comrade Shamyarira and company to organize the workers, to organize them to join trade unions. Then we create an industry out of that. We appreciate the industry that is mining NEC. Its job is to deal with the mines. But we notice they are dealing with all the big mines almost all the time. And the big mines are not anyway assisting the small mines. So we need to create that industry and make it as strong as possible. We need the collaboration. But the collaboration currently, ladies and gentlemen, is uncoordinated. In our ministry, we will probably shock you when we come. We are no longer going to just come as ministry officials. We are going to bring people from the National Employment Councils. We are going to bring people from immigration. We are going to bring people maybe from even the NASA people to do our inspections, because we believe in what is called integrated inspections or joint inspections. It does not waste productive time. It helps people to be able to bring out all the issues that we need in our industries. The collaboration we need with the association, Shamyarira has already explained. If you are indeed employers, join the group so that the issues become national. 2 years ago, the president established what was called the responsible mining audit. You heard about this one? We discovered that out of 600 and something workers, well, mining establishments that were audited, half of those were in compliance with the labor laws. And we were worried. So if you notice right now, our provincial heads are coordinating training programs. They are coordinating meetings with the National Employment Council for the mining industry. And we want to collaborate with NASA, with employers, with trade unions while doing so. And to us, we believe the collaboration, Falak, will take us to another level. Because we can even mobilize resources more if we are working together, if we are united, and if we are doing things together, rather than a fragmented approach that has not taken us anywhere. Thank you.
All right. Let's talk about the OSH. Thank you. Let's talk about the OSH bill. That is a major milestone because it came to plug in gaps to empower inspectors and also even the worker to be able to say, I cannot work if I don't have protective clothing in any work environment. But I'm thinking of miners that are in Mazoe, miners that are in Jumbo, that are outside the system. How is this bill coming to protect that person? How can they, if they are outside the system, say, actually, I won't work in such an environment? Or I'm going to NASA, I'm going to Ministry of Labor to report anomalies that are happening, but they're outside the system.
I think the bill somewhere says it has actually united all the fragmented pieces of legislation. In the first place, I would like to applaud NASA for the hard work and the hard work that everybody put in to create that law. It actually covers all workplaces. That is the most important thing, including government, including small artisanal miners. They are covered by that bill. What is important now is how to practicalize the compliance to all the provisions of that bill. We know now when we have a law, most of the challenges that we face are how to make things work, how to comply, how to make those that are floating the regulations, those that are not following the procedures to be accountable. We need that, and I think that piece of legislation has given us a room to work together as a team that helps our industries to grow rather than to frustrate them.
And so, before we go to ILO and open up the questions to the floor, you spoke about compliance there. Tisha, looking at the issue of technology, Commissioner Shamiaria highlighted areas that are hotspots, again, your Jumbos, your Shurugwi. How do we use technology and data-driven approaches to make sure that the compliance you're talking about happens, but it's also easier to comply? We've heard complaints where some will say, for example, for mining, compliance with ZIMRA is much harder than it should be, and naturally, people don't comply. They would rather say,
if you've been through the areas where mining takes place, artisanal mining, you will notice Vanushansa picking for sure. So any of the technology that you may talk about, they don't have. And I'm saying we need support for them, either from government or private sector actors, to be able to come together to assist them. Trying to introduce new things to them, they do not see their benefits. Someone was talking about how they probably run away from people who want to train them. And I was talking to someone to say, you're talking about mercury. What is the alternative? They don't know what else to use. So if you do not tell them what is the alternative to mercury, you can continuously talk about technology, what to use, and it doesn't help them. And I'm saying I've been to where these people work. Technology, to them, that word means very little if you are not talking about heavy-duty machinery. But those who have the money, who are coming into this sector, are coming into their sector. Like someone said, we need to protect them in a way so that they are given their chance to exploit our own resources for our benefits. Thank you.
Right. Please give a round of applause to Director Vusani. All right, so we'd love to hear your thoughts, your reactions, your additions, particularly if you are someone who does dabble in mining yourself. Where you are sitting, what do you think protection, daily protection for an artisanal miner looks like? Thoughts, questions, anyone? All right, where's our roving mic? Okay, please can you, there's a question in the front.
Hello.
Loud and clear.
Thank you. My question is, today our Asian investors, where do they fit in? Are they artisanal? Are they formal? Where is the control mechanism? Where do they lie exactly?
All right, so before you answer that question, there was also another question here. If we can take a set of questions. Can you just put your hand up for the mic to see you? Right in front here.
Mine is a comment, more of a comment, in terms of what has been said by all the speakers. If I connect the dots, it's putting a pointer to our institutional frameworks that we use to come up with policies, whether we are trying to give incentives. So the question is, what are we doing to make sure that the institutional frameworks that we have, for example, the TNF, are all embracing? I take note that perhaps the Federation of Miners Association are not part of those structures. So what can be done? That's question one. Question number two is on the labor market information system. What type of information are we collecting? So that the information that we are collecting would then inform the policy. Because all we're talking about social dialogue, it's policy, with a view to try and improve the conditions of the artisanal miners, employers and workers. Thank you.
All right, any more questions?
Thank you. My question is directed to Mr. Muperi. In your statistics, you talked about increasing fatalities. As an authority, what do you attribute these increases to? And what are you doing to try and curb them? Thank you.
All right, so let's go through the first round of questions. The role of our investors. How do we classify them is the first question. I will throw that one to Director.
Well, the one who classifies is the one who registers them. They go through a system of registration, KUZIDA, which is the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, where I hope they do not register themselves as artisanal miners. I think they are at a high level. We believe they come with the money, they come with the technology, and I do not believe they register themselves as artisanal miners. But the challenge, as I said, with our artisanal miners is that our friends from Asia have discovered an easier way in which they enter into the area of mining, register with the Ministry of Mines as also miners. And then when they compete with our people, this is the conflict that you are seeing. Their competition is making our people very uncomfortable, and even as they have the technology, you find our people saying, if you are the ones to do the mining, pay us. Because if he has been doing his own mining, he's probably going to pay himself $1,000. But now when he's going to be a worker from our Asian friends, he begins to be a salaried, a wage earner, and sometimes the relationships do not work. But institutionally, we need to create, I think Mme Kwa's question is pertinent, we need to create the institutions. Unfortunately, we can't force the association to join MCOS. We would want to encourage them, and we are going to do that because for myself, I thought it was a good idea that if we have a good partnership with the Employers Association and the Federation, you are able to create more synergies that help us to attract we'll establish a situation where we want to know who is mining where. That's the first thing. And when we have the numbers, we want to know how much gold they are bringing to Fidelity. Those who are bringing very little, we categorize the Ministerial area. Those who are bringing a lot, then we find ways of encouraging them to even produce more. The statistics show us that geologically there's lots of minerals underground in Zimbabwe, 63 minerals all together. So the amount that we can get only comes when we make the proper investments. But with these small investments of our small artisanal miners, we are only scratching the surface of the earth, and we will not get too far. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just add, on determine who the miner, who the what? First thing first, investors who are coming in for doing mining, the ZIDA must be revamped to be very, very centered to the country and realigned to NDS 1, NDS 2, whatever NDS we are going to get to, with the vision that is enunciated by His Excellency of creating an upper middle income by 2030. How do we do it? They just cannot come here free for all. We must have thresholds that are set. If you are an investor coming from Asia, coming from Australia, how much capital are you investing? In liquid cash, you declare what is up. Machinery, what type of machinery are you bringing in this country? And also technological scaling up kunyika yedu. Tunzisana koto tunoyani munanisa maglobu munanu gadzira chamber dzema toilet kubva nadzo kuChina kana kuAustralia. Right. Number 3, we want to know your production target market. Aungauye kuskotora zvinhu zvese muno gold racho rese richienda kuChina kupi kupi. And that's cardinal to us.
Any more additions to that question?
There was a question for NASA. Thank you very much for the question. Increasing fatalities, what do we attribute them to? So for us in NASA, when we look at this sector, we attribute the increasing accidents and fatalities to a lack of investment in safe working methods. particularly as the sector is operating mainly outside formal regulation. It has been mentioned already that this sector is capital intensive. So it's small, really paying attention to safe working methods. So there's neglect of the need for safe working methods. So we highly attribute it to the people just adhering to, or rather, regulatory framework. So we also then touch on the issue of regulatory and monitoring mechanisms. If you look at the formal sector, which is contributing to NASA, we are there in the industry, particularly with the new legislation, which now gives us the right to go and inspect mines. We are present, we are watching, we are monitoring, we are advising on what they should do for the safety of the worker. But we are not in that sector. It means it's just open and so exposed. So it's mainly the issue of unsafe working methods, which probably is a challenge that I may also pose to the policymakers, because unfortunately, when these people are involved in these accidents or their families become food insecure, they don't have social protection, the government ultimately is the one that will be responsible for looking after them. So it's better to take care of the sector and make sure that people are safe and they work safely and be productive for their families. I think that's what we attribute the fatalities to. Thank you.
All right. There's still a couple of questions that we haven't responded to that we're speaking into policy.
Right. I needed the House to understand that these accidents, the fatalities that have been mentioned, 32 in battlefields, 24 Mazoe, 15 Chinoi, El Dorado. Most of those, that is proper illegal miners because they are using disused shaft one. The entrance to those pits is now, instead of using the cage, because they are actually entering the mine undetected, when the mine is closed, then they use all the unsafe places. That's when these accidents are recorded in Gwanda again. So it is an issue that we've talked about. I think I'm happy that the director has mentioned it, the issue of the government formalizing. How do we formalize? There has been the talk of chiefs as creating the social license in a particular area. When there's a gold rush, there was gold rushes in Akwekwe, where 42 kgs would be recovered in one day. But then how do the chiefs actually assist in forming syndicates for the people? The local authorities also being mentioned. There used to be a statutory instrument, 1992, which allowed the local authorities to actually assist in formalizing and registering the artisanal small-scale miners. When we're saying formalize, is identifying the people that are in a particular area and give them a form of licensing. Like in Zambia, comparatively, if you go to Zambia, they've got 3-tier system. They've got a license for the artisanal miner, which is not more than 5 hectares. They've got a license for a small-scale miner. Then they've got a license for the big mining operator. In Zimbabwe, we've got a one-size-fits-all. That's when you talk about Asian investors, where do they qualify? But the new law, of course, says anyone who is an investor should not pay less than 40 hectares. It should be more and above. We have seen situations, I think Mr. Shamwe has mentioned, that as Federation, we're also looking at situations where there's been conflict over land with investors over 5 hectares, whether the indigenous person is wrong, but you cannot have an investor actually having a conflict to say this is my land over 5 hectares. That's not investment. The heap leaching that is going on, a lot of damage is being done. Shurugu area, they're targeting the mountains. But who is involved in mining those, who is having those syndicates? That is where the question is, which Mr. Shamiarira says they are going to deal with that. I thank you.
Yeah. So a couple of more thoughts. I feel like there's a question, though, that we haven't answered, and I feel like we're skirting around the question that came in. And I would really like Comrade Shamiarira to come in there. I would really like Vatakarasha to come and address the question that came in from, my apologies, the lady sitting in front, that ultimately this is pointing to one thing. And all this data that's been collected, to what end? This is me summarizing from what she's highlighted, but I feel like we have not answered that question. And there's also another question that's coming up, but can we just address her sentiments?
Thank you. I think the beauty is that we have these parliamentarians here, my Honorable Edu. They are part and parcel of us in crafting laws. And the advantage of them is that they make laws at the apex, whilst we can make laws at industrial scales. They have heard what we have said. We are not mincing our words, and they are not there as pony MPs. They are there to work for the benefit of the people, of the citizenry, who are their voters for that instance. So now there must be also a political will. I don't mean political will in the form of opposition parties or whatever. Political will in the form of creating a national discourse narrative. From imimi minus federation vana comrade takavarasha. Takudzai kana maamsingaziye mkosi takudzai. You must also voluntarily go to them, sit down with them, give them your database. Where you need assistance, you can be assisted. And you must also allow our trade unions from 2 federations to take membership from there. In so doing, we are also building up national employment councils. We are also building up laws that assist you. For instance, health and safety EOE, you also have a problem. Whether legally or not legally, the threshold must also apply to you. Before anyone is given a license, as a small scale or what, the threshold is, where are you going to mine? Topa would go and it in the Ministry of Mines. To create a dumping site there, if you see Makomba, Zara Kweso, Nevamuan, under Imimi, why is it that you don't look for health hazards? So these are some of the things that will assist us. My Mkwewa. Imimio is MCOS. Be radical. Protect and defend your turf. I so submit.
So, also speaking to the idea of data, and I'm just going to go through some more questions as what's coming. What is the role of all this data collection in areas like Mazoe, areas like Jumbo, Shurugwi, you know, the places we call hotspots? What is the role of all this data in those areas? NASA.
Okay, thank you. The role of the data is actually to inform policy decisions. You need to know the priority areas. The data will point at priority areas and priority actions. The data will assist the policymaker to know the appropriate policy interventions. You will not be able to actually come up with the appropriate policy without the data. And for us, NASA, although from the question that was asked to say, what are you doing to curb the fatalities? As NASA, there's very little that we currently can do because the artisanal and small-scale miners are not part of our schemes. We are going there as a corporate social responsibility. But we are saying the data will help us as we even try to train them, educate them, provide awareness, educate them on the risks that they're exposed to. If we have the data, we know how to profile them and know how to target them and know which areas to prioritize. But more so, it assists the policymaker at government level, at TNF level, to say what are the appropriate interventions that we can come up with. It's all informed by the data. That's how the data will assist. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're about to come to the end of our discussion. So what do you think we need to do, whether it's from a traditional knowledge point of view, whether it is from a technology point of view, to make artisanal mining safer? All right, so let me just go through questions that have just come in quickly, and then we can round off our discussion. What are the examples of technology that can be used by an artisanal miner, and after introducing the technology, do they remain artisanal miners or they graduate to formal sectors? This is an open question. the listener wants to, and the listener, my apologies. The contributor wants to know what the examples of technology are that an artisanal miner can use on a day-to-day scale. There's because I think about the technology, no dikangwa ne munhu ari kwabhuka ukuchicha izvo. Kushandisa technology, do they remain an artisanal miner or they have graduated?
Yeah, thank you. I think that one is a very pertinent question because it also averts continuous ecological degradation. We need technologies that dictate where exactly the mineral that you want to. Not a situation whereby the whole 10 hectares, there is makomba uchita trial and error. If you can't dictate where the mineral is, stop that business. Let those that can dictate, one dictator, onanga ipapo approved, you get your mineral, that's it, and there must be a refuge, disused dump sites, so that we also contain and maintain our ecological natural setup.
I think there has been mentioned that the miners have been using rudimentary methods. For instance, superstition, dakarota pane corridor. That's not technology. People need to use empirical evidence where you bring in a geologist and then they do soil sampling, they do the geological mapping, and that's scientific. For empirical evidence, that is actually scientific. So the technology part actually assists in the sustainable mining. So there is growth by the miner to improve in terms of one, production and output. So obviously, then it means that the person would have graduated. If he was an artisanal miner, he goes to a small-scale miner. If he was a small-scale miner, he becomes a medium small-scale miner. So it's a gradual approach where a marginal growth means production also increases. The rudimentary methods of mining would never make any miner actually improve in terms of production. So what is more important is the target. I think there's been a very good answer in terms of one, why is the data important, which is actually for policy interventions. When we do advocacy issues, you are quite aware of the examples that have been given. How many people are in Jumbo, how many people, and what is the potential throughput countrywide in terms of production, and what is the necessary items or ancillary stuff that is wanted. So instead of using the hand mill, you go to any mine, they use the hand mill, you bring in a lab, that's technology. You bring in a lab, mobile laboratories, so that they do the testing, the soil sampling, and then it can be easily assessed how many grams per ton is the potential of that particular area.
Formalization frameworks. Wafusan. Can gender-responsive OSH strategies be built into formalization frameworks? There's a thinking generally that when you read, say, some pieces of legislation, they sound neutral when sometimes they need to be specific to the needs of a gender, either male or female.
There is a need for that gender-specific formalization process to take place, because if you look at it, if you go to Mtoko, most of the mining is done by men, but also women are taking a very active role in not only taking care of the children, but also doing the artisanal mining. We have, in our Department of Employment and Employment Promotion, created the formalization strategy. In that strategy, issues for gender are very prominent, and we are going to ensure that all information that we get, including the mining sector, which otherwise before had very few women, is gender disaggregated. Thank you.
All right, and last question for our session.
Can I just add on the gender issue?
Sure.
The cultural norms. If you go to Mtare, part of Nyanga, they don't want any woman to do any mining whatsoever. I think I remember we went there, former minister by then, Maim Chinguri, we wanted to do some women project and we were told categorically to go back and nothing was done. So those are issues where even at some mines, if you bring your wife to the mine, they all get angry to say we are not going to be able to to recover or to extract gold properly. But now what is happening, OH's issues in terms of gender, there is PPE that is now even suitable for the women in mining, the pregnant women, where you can also have PPE made specifically to actually, because the human features of a man and a woman are totally different. So now it has been made so that it actually assists. Because the 10% of the women in Zimbabwe, most of them being mining in the Gwanda area, they're more productive than even men. And, you know, they are getting support from the Ministry of SMEs, Women Department assisting, and also United Nations Gender assisting the women mining projects. So it is a way of empowering them, not just putting them on the back bench. When I'm saying back bench, the washing and doing the cooking, they are also involved in the actual mining. I submit.
Wow, the questions are like flying in. Okay, we have to conclude. But what do you think needs to change on this issue? Because 3 out of 10 women across the world are in mining. 3 out of 10 of artisanal miners are women. So what needs to change, whether it's culturally, politically, for us to change how OSH also has a gender responsive component? That's one. And here's another question that is specific to you, Comrade Shamyarira. Sorry, we're about to shut down. I have a question for Comrade Shamyarira. From these discussions that we do year on year, can you point to any successes coming from these discussions? And from today, do you have any timely resolutions from your other delegates which you will follow up after the conference so that we reach desired milestones?
Okay, thank you. I think on the issue of gender discrimination, it's a discrimination which is ultra-virus to the Labor Act or even to the country's constitution. What must be adhered to is professional probity. If a woman comes in and says, I want to do mining, you must be able to vet and see if she really qualified. Without the issue of tribe, creed, political affiliation, or whatever. So it's an issue that we will assist and lobby together with women lobbying groups. It's an issue that can make a national outcry. As for going way forward now, we were having the parliamentarians. It's a full house. It's a full compact. After this, we want to see a hand from you parliamentarians calling the TNF as a matter of urgency so that we consolidate all what has come out from here, and then you'll take it further to the Speaker for debates. And if need to invoke another law or realign, that must be done. Let's be Zimbabweans who walk the talk, not political rhetorics. Kuona kuti MP kana kuti CEO anda kupota achinyepera president. Chef zvinhu zviri kufamba nyika ichichema nenzara. I so submit.
I've been saying this for the last 10 minutes, Doc. Last question. Still in technology, are there any artisanal miners not using rudimentary methods? Because it's cheaper to do so. If technology is brought, it won't make these costs per kg. Won't it make these costs per kg more expensive and won't make business sense? Okay. And are there any government programs to assist these miners with technological support? Those are the last questions, and then we have to shut it down.
I think we've been talking about it. that technology actually improves production. You are looking at the gold prices. We get gold prices on a daily basis. Now gold is floating between 135 to 140 grams, 240,000 per kg. That's quite a lot. So miners need to benefit from the prices that are currently on the London Bullion Market exchange rates offered internationally. Anything doing cost-benefit analysis, it would mean that somebody has to be going very, very technical. Machines which are commensurate to the economic fundamentals to improve production. So those that would want to, if you go to the mines in terms of gold processing, most miners now, they're now doing their own milling. That's an improvement. But the hand mill, the hammer mills still may be outdated, so need a new modern technology of actually recovering the gold processing part to improve on production. So the main idea is to enhance anything that we talk about technologies, is enhancing production.
Sorry, just to also add, it's not quite my area, but from the little knowledge that I have, I think technology will make the production costs affordable. Generally, technology. The thing is, with the method that they are using, it's even very expensive. If you look at the time that they take to get their product, it's quite long, which will be very short using technology. And there are other costs to the method that are being used right now from the health perspective. This environment is regarded as arduous. It's a heavy duty kind of work if they use the method that they use now. But in the long term, it will have some health detriments, which if they are using technology, all that will not happen. So in my view, if they use technology, it will be cheaper and the product will not be expensive. It can only look like expensive at the first instance when you invest in the capital. But in the long term, it's much cheaper and it can make the product cheaper. More so if they partner as well. You don't need to go all out alone because of the amount that is required to invest in this technology. But partnering will make them more productive and more profitable. That's why I gave an example of, it's better to own the leg of an elephant than the full rate alone. I think the person who owns the leg of an elephant is better off. Thank you.
All right. Please give a round of applause to our panelists. I know it has been a very hot afternoon, but also a very critical discussion that we've had. And I think ultimately we can agree that if Vision 2030 is about prosperity, then that means no miner must be left unprotected without safe and smart technology. And I think as a country, as we're looking towards Vision 2030, the future of our children, it starts with these conversations. Many thanks to our panelists. Let's make digital systems simpler. These are the takeaways. Let's have timely information coming in. This is what technology will do. NASA will continue to be proactive, courtesy to the scheme that you've come up with. Shamyarira highlighted the need to continue collecting data, doing risk assessment, so that all that information will be collated and result in enforceable. There's also commitment to formalization. Let's integrate digital and indigenous knowledge systems, the conversation around gender and child labor as well, and also how we can continue to extend social protection to every single Zimbabwean. Thank you so much for your questions, for your attention this afternoon. Many thanks to NASA, to ILO, and to all our participants. Thank you so much. Yes, please. You can leave the stage.
Session, which is the parallel sessions that we are going to be having. But we have heard your concerns. There are so many questions that still need to be answered. So if you can kindly send those questions to the cell number that was shared previously, please kindly send those questions, and we are going to respond to them. In the afternoon, we are having parallel sessions soon after lunch. And I'm going to speak to the parallel sessions. During the registration, everyone was picking a session dependent on the sub-theme that you would want to attend. And we've got 4 sub-themes. So we are going to be having 4 groups that will be running parallel in the afternoon. And the first one is automated hazard detection and alert systems. And it's happening in Gwai room. So those that registered for automated hazard detection and alert systems is happening in Gwai room, which is the first floor of the hotel building. We have Dr. Manditsera. Dr. Manditsera, are you around? Can you just wave from where you are? Yes, Dr. Manditsera will be running with that. He will be the session coordinator together with his team. And then we also have another session, which is remote work and digital ergonomics. This is just basically dealing with examining the economic, social, and productivity implications of digital and remote work in modern workplaces. And it's happening in Kalundu room. Kalundu room is on ground floor to your left as you enter the hotel. And session coordinator is Mr. Chagadama. Mr. Chagadama, if you're around, you can just wave so that people can see you. Yes, I see you, Mr. Chagadama. That's remote work and digital ergonomics. Then we have artificial intelligence and machine learning in occupational safety and health. This is the largest group, so you will be congregating here in the main tent. Artificial intelligence and machine learning in occupational safety and health. And the session coordinator will be Mr. Chibanda. Mr. Chibanda, if you're around, you can just wave. Yes, Mr. Chibanda will be coordinating the session. And then we have the last one, which is the future of workplace through research and training session. This one will be happening in Kalala Conference Room. Kalala Conference Room is on the first floor within the hotel building. And we have Mr. Zendera. Mr. Zendera will be the session coordinator. Mr. Zendera, if you're around. Yes. So if there are those that have not yet registered, kindly see our secretariat during the lunchtime so that you can register. And I also want to announce that ZOSHK members, you are advised that the meeting will be happening in Pagota room. We are off to lunch, but if we can allow our VIPs to, first of all, lead the way, and then we can follow. Thank you so much. See you at 2 o'clock within our rooms. So please just go to the room that you registered as I announced so that we can commence. We want to make sure that by 4 o'clock we are done. Thank you. Okay, just a second.